The drug sodium valproate is one of the most effective treatments for epilepsy and is regularly prescribed to thousands of people across the UK. But it can also have severe side effects for pregnant women and has been linked to hundreds of birth defects in newborns, including cleft palate and spina bifida. Now new research has revealed further potential problems. As many as 12% of babies exposed to the drug in the womb can suffer mental disorders. But just how aware are mums-to-be of the problem? We sent Dr. Rosemary Leonard to find out.
There is no known cure, and at its worst it can result in death. Over 500,000 of us battle with epilepsy, a disorder which can be characterised by blackouts and seizures. But the condition can usually be successfully managed with medication. Sodium valproate is one of the most effective anti-epilepsy drugs available. For thousands, it's a lifesaver, protection against a fatal fit. Yet for the 2,500 women with epilepsy who get pregnant every year, the situation is complex. Many believe this pill is responsible for the birth defects in hundreds of babies.
We know that the risk of physical birth defects is certainly at least 10%, and the increased risk of spina bifida, for example, is about 20 times the background population risk.
Children that have the neural tube defects, spina bifida, cleft lip and palate, heart malformations, kidney malformations.
The evidence has become stronger. Fetal exposure to valproate knocks somewhere between 7 to 10 IQ points off the child.
Sodium valproate first came onto the market in the 1970s, a time when many believed popping a pill could cure anything. We had yet to learn that science can't provide all the answers.
The birth defects ranged from deformed or missing limbs to blindness and brain damage.
Thalidomide was used in the 1950s as a cure for morning sickness in pregnant women, but it proved toxic, causing around 2,000 babies in the UK alone to be born with abnormalities. The makers of thalidomide have never been forgiven for failing to adequately alert mothers-to-be about the potential side effects of the drug. Half a century later, is history repeating itself? 8-year-old Lauren has cerebral palsy and needs constant help to get around. Her 7-year-old brother Luke has deformed feet and has to be fitted with these splints before he can walk.
Oh no, it's getting all gooey now.
In fact, all 5 of Emma's children have severe health problems.
Symptoms my children experience are along the autism spectrum, cerebral palsy, deafness, incontinence, mobility issues, and constant aching in the body.
Emma believes her children were damaged in the womb by the sodium valproate she has been taking for years to control her epilepsy. She's angry because she feels she was never warned about the dangers by either her doctor or the drugs company.
It wasn't until I was through my 4th pregnancy that I actually found out about the effects of Epilim.
Emma's experience is not unusual. Exact figures have yet to be verified, but charities working in the sector estimate that globally the number of children harmed by the drug could run into thousands.
The recent figures that have come out stated that there's 48,000 people that has actually been exposed to valproate, and a possible 20,000 that may have actually been affected by it through physical or cognitive problems.
National guidelines insist that all women of childbearing age with epilepsy should be informed about the particular risks sodium valproate may have for their unborn baby. But at least 20 years after concerns were raised about the drug, new data has revealed some GPs are failing to alert patients.
We actually did a survey of women with epilepsy and asked them about the information and counselling they receive about pregnancy. Over 28% of those women hadn't received any information in connection with pregnancy, and in particular the risk of their anti-epileptic drug and the possible effect that might have on their unborn baby.
Some of the UK's leading professors and doctors in epilepsy research are also concerned.
I'm finding that a number of women are not being warned about the potential risks of valproate.
I'm still seeing young children, sometimes babies, who clearly appear to have been damaged by exposure to these drugs.
The fact that women are not being alerted to these serious risks is particularly alarming because scientists have now discovered that sodium valproate can be even more damaging to the brain of an unborn baby than they had ever previously acknowledged.
I'd like you to try this next one for me, please.
Neuropsychologist Professor Gus Baker has spent the past 12 years overseeing the most comprehensive research programme ever conducted into the development of children born to mothers with epilepsy.
We followed up 600 children from birth to 6 years of age. We found out from our results that children exposed to sodium valproate were at a greater risk of intellectual delay, memory problems, language difficulties, and behavioural problems.
The new report concludes that children born to mothers on valproate are actually 6 times more likely to be diagnosed with disorders like autism.
Many of them have residual problems well into their teens and probably early adult life, and some of them undoubtedly will not be able to lead independent living and go out and be earners in society.
Would you suggest that GPs stop them taking sodium valproate?
Absolutely not. What we would suggest from our research, she needs to discuss with her GP about how she's going to think about the risks. The majority of pregnancies are normal.
Yet that's no comfort for the hundreds of families struggling to cope with children who they believe have been harmed by side effects.
As a mum, you do have the guilt trip. I was always questioned, how was I on the drug, because it was controlling the seizures. It was always advised that I double up my folic acid and to carry on with the Epilim.
Sanofi, the company that markets sodium valproate under the brand name Epilim, has always denied liability for any birth defects and claims
sodium valproate has at all times since the product was first marketed in the early 1970s contained a warning of its teratogenic potential. We regularly review and make changes to our core safety information in the light of emerging data that could have an impact on the safety profile of valproate.
But campaigners claim the company's warnings have always lagged behind research.
There was a lot of research papers out in the 80s and the 90s where it said that there was such a thing as valproate syndrome. But it wasn't until around about 2005 that they actually changed the leaflets.
The current leaflet provided with another brand of the drug, made by Wockhardt, clearly highlights there are risks to any unborn child, including spina bifida, congenital abnormalities, and delayed development. But as a GP with 24 years' experience, I believe that the warnings on this leaflet are inadequate. There is no specific mention of long-term learning difficulties, of low verbal IQ, or autistic spectrum disorders. Reading this, a potential mother-to-be may well not realise the severe and extensive effects that this drug can have. Wockhardt claims,
In the leaflet, the patients are adequately warned. The leaflet for sodium valproate has been approved by the Medicines and Healthcare Products Regulatory Agency.
I wanted to find out why the MHRA approved the information on this product when it fails to mention specific side effects, including those highlighted by the new research. They refused to be interviewed. In a statement, they said,
Drug companies have a duty to keep their product information up to date with current scientific knowledge, and we will be considering what updates may be required to the product information in light of the new study data.
Well, the government have always been aware of this problem. However, the Department of Health don't seem to be pushing it forward for the warnings to ladies to be given.
Emma and Janet have started a campaign to ensure the public are better informed about the side effects of drugs like valproate. Today they've come to Westminster to meet 26 MPs in a bid to force the government to launch a public inquiry into the issue.
Would we be alright to start without them all?
In the event, only one MP turns up. It's a setback, but Janet and Emma are adamant the new research linking valproate to fetal damage makes their case stronger than ever.
Our goal now is to go forward to the drug company now and say, look, this is what's happened. It's obvious that these children have been affected by this drug, and we want to know what they are prepared to do to help.
I should emphasise, if you have epilepsy and are planning a pregnancy, then please consult your GP before making any changes to your medication. And you can find out more about